Welcome back to the Malaysia Money Matters Show. It's January 28th, 2025, and we've got a lot to cover today. So let's dive right into the latest financial happenings in Malaysia. From exciting IPOs and corporate shakeups to the global forces that are impacting your investments.
Yeah, we've got a packed show for you today, that's for sure.
Absolutely. First up, Bursa Malaysia is making headlines. They're reporting a fantastic 2024 with a nearly 23% jump in net profits.
Wow.
And get this, they're expecting 60 new listings this year.
That's a strong indicator of a healthy market, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And it looks like you could get even more exciting. They're hinting at a potential mega IPO from MMC Port Holdings,
Oh, wow.
which could be the biggest in over a decade. Imagine the buzz if that pulls in the estimated 7 billion ringgit.
It would be a major win for Bursa Malaysia for sure, attracting international attention and investment, although they are forecasting slightly lower profits this year, citing global economic uncertainties.
Ah, yes, those pesky global headwinds always seem to loom. But even with that, 60 new listings is still very impressive. Plus, they've got a new CEO at the helm, Datuk Fad'l Mohamed, who comes with a wealth of experience from RHB Bank and Maybank Investment Bank.
Yeah, a new CEO always brings a shift. In perspective and strategy, it'll be interesting to see how Datuk Fad'l navigates the global landscape and builds on Bursa Malaysia's success.
Speaking of building, the competition is fierce. For the remaining 9 billion ringgit worth of work on the Penang LRT project, we've got major players like Gamuda, MRCB, and WCT, all vying for the systems work.
And don't forget, IJM and Sunway Construction, they're eyeing the civil works to connect the island to the mainland.
Right.
This project is massive. It's actually divided into two categories, with the systems work requiring extensive experience and long-term guarantees.
Oh, wow.
The stakes are high, for sure.
High stakes indeed. And speaking of high demand, the IPO for Sabah-based steel manufacturer Colform Group was oversubscribed by a whopping 41.82 times. The public portion alone pulled in almost 462.5 million ringgit, blowing past their target of 41.2 million.
It seems investors are incredibly bullish on Colform's prospects. The steel industry is a major component of construction and infrastructure development. And with Sabah's growth trajectory, there's a sense that Colform is well positioned to capitalize on that demand.
Now let's shift gears to the tech world. Microsoft is expanding its footprint in Johor, buying up another plot of land for data centers from Crescendo Corp. This follows two other land deals they made with Crescendo last year. They're really doubling down on Johor, aren't they?
It certainly appears that way. This points to Johor's growing importance as a data center hub. Its strategic location, robust infrastructure, and competitive costs are likely drawing in tech giants like Microsoft. Wouldn't be surprising to see more companies follow suit, creating a ripple effect throughout Johor's economy.
And in other tech news, 5G is making its way into KLIA and KLIA2. DNB and Edo TCO just launched in-building solutions, so travelers can look forward to faster and more reliable connectivity. It's a small step, but a significant one.
Definitely, this showcases 5G's potential to transform daily life. Seamless connectivity in major transportation hubs is crucial for a digitally connected nation. Plus, it paves the way for even more exciting 5G applications down the road. Think smart airports, enhanced logistics, and more.
But the 5G landscape is always evolving. CIMB Securities estimates that telcos like Celcom, DG, Maxis, and YTL might each need to shell out 394 million ringgit to buy stakes in DNB for the second 5G network. That's a hefty price tag, but they might save on 4G network capital expenditures, or CapEx as it's often called, which is the money they spend on maintaining and upgrading the existing 4G network.
This raises an interesting question about how the second 5G network will impact the existing players. Mobile, a key player in that second network, is also planning to list on Bursa by the end of the year. Will this lead to more competition, lower prices, or more complexity? It's a situation worth keeping an eye on.
Let's talk mergers and acquisitions. Ecovest and Lusford are extending their merger talks for another 6 months. This deal, which could be worth around 450 million ringgit, has been in the works for a while now.
Mergers and acquisitions can really shake things up in an industry. It'll be interesting to see how this deal affects both companies and the broader market. And speaking of acquisitions, Symphony Life has quietly become the largest shareholder in Visione Holdings, taking a 25.88% stake through a private placement.
It's like a game of chess, isn't it? Companies making strategic moves to gain an advantage or expand their reach.
Precisely. It's all about positioning for future growth and navigating the ever-changing market dynamics.
Now for some news from the skies. AirAsia X has extended the deadline for its mega acquisition of Capital A's short-haul aviation business. This 6.8 billion ringgit deal is now expected to be finalized by March 24th.
This acquisition is a complex maneuver with high stakes. If they pull it off, it could help Capital A exit PN17 status, a designation given to financially distressed companies. It would be a significant turnaround for them.
And while we're on the topic of aviation, MMA Holdings is beefing up its air freight fleet. They just bought another Boeing B737-400SF aircraft for over 29 million ringgit.
This suggests continued growth in the air freight sector, potentially fueled by the rise of e-commerce and global trade. It's a trend worth noting.
Before we move on to international news, let's touch on some company-specific highlights. Genting Plantations is cashing in on some land in Malacca, selling it off for 334 million ringgit.
That's a smart move. While they'll lose some palm oil income, that cash injection will be a significant boost to their bottom line. Companies need to be adaptable and seize opportunities like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, DXN Holdings, the health and wellness company, saw their profits jump by 18.4% last quarter, thanks to strong performance in Latin America and the Middle East.
That's impressive.
They're clearly not limiting themselves to just the Malaysian market.
Diversification is key, especially in today's globalized world. It's encouraging to see Malaysian companies expanding their reach and tapping into new markets.
There are a few more quick updates before we shift to international news. RHB Digital has been quietly increasing its stake in Theta Edge, becoming the second largest shareholder.
These behind-the-scenes moves can be just as significant as the big headlines. It suggests RHB might be making a strategic play in the technology sector.
And finally, SolarVest Holdings is branching out, buying a 30% stake in Keeming Electrical, a company that specializes in electrical works.
This move highlights the growing connection between renewable energy, like solar power, and the construction industry. It's a trend we might see more of, as the push for sustainable solutions intensifies.
Now let's take a look at what's happening internationally and how it might impact Malaysia. So let's kick things off with the U.S. stock market, which took a bit of a nosedive on Monday. Tech stocks in particular were leading the plunge. Investors are getting a little jittery about the potential impact of DeepSeek, a Chinese startup that's making waves with its low-cost AI model.
Interesting.
DeepSeek's success is raising questions about whether AI development will actually drive demand for high-priced chips and data centers.
That is fascinating. If DeepSeek can deliver comparable AI capabilities at a fraction of the cost, it could really shake up the tech industry.
Right, and that uncertainty is making some investors nervous. Now on the trade front, Tesla and BMW are suing the EU over tariffs on Chinese-made EVs. The EU slapped tariffs of up to 45% on these imports, after concluding that China was unfairly subsidizing its EV industry.
This lawsuit really highlights those ongoing trade tensions between the EU and China, and it could have ripple effects for the global EV market.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that global trade policies can have a direct impact on companies and consumers, even those far removed from the initial dispute.
Sure.
Meanwhile, in China itself, there are signs that their economic recovery might be losing steam. Manufacturing activity actually contracted in January, which was unexpected. This slowdown adds to the pressure on Beijing to provide more stimulus to keep their economy growing.
It'll be interesting to see how they respond to this challenge and what implications it has for the global economy.
For sure. Now, let's bring it back to Malaysia, where there's a lot happening in the corporate world. UEM Group has been steadily increasing its stake in Malaysia Airports Holdings, Berhad, better known as MAHB. They've just crossed the 90% ownership threshold, solidifying their control over this major airport operator.
Wow.
You know, UEM Group, with their expertise in infrastructure, they could have big plans for MAHB, think modernization projects, or even expansions.
It would certainly make sense.
This could really boost Malaysia's standing as a regional aviation hub.
Definitely something to keep an eye on.
In other M&A news, Unitrade Industries is clarifying the funding for its subsidiary's acquisition of a metal recycling specialist. It involves a mix of capital injections and internal funds, showing how serious they are about this deal.
That's interesting. This is a great example of a company, diversifying and tapping into a growing sector, with sustainability becoming increasingly important. The metal recycling business is gaining traction globally. Unitrade is clearly positioning themselves to ride that wave.
Absolutely. Lastly, we have a story that underscores the importance of good corporate governance. Perlintas Infra Business Trust, which manages several major highways in Malaysia, is distancing itself from recent graft cases involving executives at its sponsor company Perlintas. This highlights the need for clear separation between a business trust and its sponsor, especially when it comes to ethical and legal matters.
Yeah, that's a crucial point.
The fact that Perlintas Infra Business Trust is proactively addressing this and cooperating with authorities is key for maintaining investor trust and their reputation.
I completely agree. Transparency and accountability are essential for any business, especially those in the public eye.
Well, that was quite a rundown of the latest financial news impacting Malaysia. Lots of moving pieces, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. From potential mega IPOs to global tech shakeups, the financial landscape is constantly evolving. What stood out to you the most today?
Honestly, the potential of MMC Port Holdings IPO really caught my attention. It could be a game changer for Bursa Malaysia and a real signal of confidence in the Malaysian economy.
I agree. That's a big one to watch. But for me, the story about Colform Group's oversubscribed IPO is just as fascinating. It speaks volumes about investor confidence in Sabah's growth potential, particularly in industries tied to construction and development.
It's exciting to see these signs of growth and momentum both within Malaysia and on the global stage.
Exactly. It's a reminder that even amidst global uncertainty, there are always opportunities for savvy investors and businesses to thrive.
And that's what we're here for, to help you navigate this complex world and make informed decisions. Be sure to tune in next week for another deep dive into the most important financial news impacting Malaysia.
Until then, stay informed and keep those investment strategies sharp.
And don't forget to subscribe to the Malaysian Money Matters podcast so you never miss an episode. Thanks for joining us. Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If you would like a deeper dive into all the investment opportunities from today's news, subscribe to my newsletter at moneymatters.substack.com. I will be sharing a deeper analysis of the key investment opportunities from today's news, including what makes these opportunities stand out and how they fit into the broader market trends. By subscribing to the Malaysia Money Matters newsletter, you will also get exclusive insights on my watch list and portfolio and fundamental reports on Malaysian listed companies.